hate interacting with people. Except for Kevin. Love you, Kevin.
Just kiss!
Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Brain Blaze. I, as always, am your host, Simon Wyman's here, one of my writers, in this case, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin, has written me a script, the worst corporate mergers in history. Wow. This channel used to be called Brain Blaze when it was about business, and it just became totally not about business, the channel, excuse me. And then I renamed it to Brain Blaze. And then immediately after that, somehow we ended up doing loads of business content. Just somehow by accident, I don't know how. And now we're back to it. Let's go. Some things just go better together. Batman and Robin, bananas and pajamas, sweet potatoes and marshmallows, Simon and Red Bull.
Skull, 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 skull.
Yeah, baby. Excuse me. These are all incontrovertible examples of pairings where the whole is greater than the parts. Is Batman really greater with Robin? Like, I remember watching those old Batman movies when I was a kid, and I remember looking back and being like, it's a bit shit, aren't they?
How dare you?
And then I saw that Christopher Nolan one where Batman's awesome and cool, and there's no Robin. So I'm beginning to think maybe Batman was better without Robin. I'm thinking maybe Robin was just a little bit shit. Maybe Robin was a bit of a tag-along. But not every pair is a match made in heaven, and sometimes you get unions like OJ and Nicole, Anne Boleyn and Henry VIII, or Kale and human taste buds. I don't mind kale. I don't eat a lot of it, but I don't think it's bad. And also, what are you saying about OJ there, Kevin? Obviously innocence, as proven by a court of criminal law, and then not by a court of civil law later. But, I mean, Anne Boleyn and Henry VIII, you're implying that Henry VIII killed Anne Boleyn, which is true. What are you saying about OJ, Kevin? What are you saying, Kevin? Trying to get me in trouble, Kevin? While I try my best, I can't say I always predict the future. I suspect Simon's had some choice words about sweet potatoes covered in marshmallow. Oh, Kevin, you did predict the future wrong. And I was thinking about adding something there, but I was realizing that I waffled long enough about Batman, so I didn't say anything about that weird combination. But did we just return from some pro-Kale tangents? Yes, we did! I wouldn't think so, and I certainly hope not. But I can't know for sure. Well, Kevin, it looks like you're 0 for 0 today, because I talked about loving kale. I did talk about sweet potatoes and marshmallows. What the fuck? As great as it is to see Simon's reaction when he goes on a tangent only to get back to the teleprompter and find me replying to what he just ranted about, which happened just a few episodes ago at the time of this writing, I only attempt this when I'm 99% positive how he reacts. Otherwise, the result would be just disjointed and unfunny. I would with it, Kevin. I guess that last paragraph was all disjointed and unfunny then, because you got it wrong, Kevin, didn't you? Disappointing.
Dishonor on your whole family. Make a note of this. Dishonor on you. Dishonor on your cow.
Just before we continue with the video today, let me ask you a very important question. Are you ready to unleash your creativity? Are you ready to dive into a world of endless inspiration? Well, I'm not about to break out into song are you ready for this? There's a Willy Wonka song, right? About imagination or something like that. In a world of imagination. Something. Look, who cares? This isn't Willy Wonka. This is an advert for today's glorious sponsor, Skillshare, who are maybe going to make me redo this because I thought, why are we talking about Willy Wonka? But they're going to help you discover things through creativity. Skillshare is where creative minds come together to find their passion and take the next step on their creative journey. Whether you're a seasoned pro, a curious dabbler, or a total beginner, there's something here for you. I'm always a total beginner. I've got no life skills. That's why Skillshare is perfect for me. And maybe for you, you skillless fool. Trying to think of a word that I can use in an ad read, but it probably isn't appropriate anyway. With the largest online learning community for creative, Skillshare boasts a vast array of topics from illustration, graphic design, photography, and music to marketing, productivity, web development, and so much more. I don't think I've actually used any of those. What I have used are the filming and light ones, all of this light setup. Thank you to Skillshare. You got me started on all of that stuff, making it look pretty. Legends. It's not just a learning platform, it's a creative hub that connects you with like-minded teachers and fellow members. Get inspired and receive valuable feedback to fuel your artistic fire. The best part, Skillshare believes in a learn-by-doing approach where you can create and share your own projects after completing a class. So it's time to turn your ideas into reality. Learning at your own pace has never been easier. Skillshare's on-demand platform allows you to dive into classes whenever and wherever you want, no matter your skill level. I recently mentioned that lighting one, but I was also taking a class all about AI called Make AI Work For You. It's like using ChatGPT and stuff. I was using it to come up with some topic ideas, and I didn't really know what I was doing. And sometimes they were truly bad. But with Skillshare, I have refined my ability to work with ChatGPT. And that's nice for me, isn't it? And here's the icing on the creative cake. Skillshare is offering a 1-month free trial for the first 1,000 people who use the link in the description below. Unleash your creativity like a butterfly unleashes its wings after breaking through from the chrysalis. Yes, I just came up with that on the spot. Maybe my creativity I learned from Skillshare, and you can too. Thanks for Skillshare for sponsoring, and now back to today's video. Of course, nobody can perfectly predict the future. Doing so would require some sort of magical ability, and none of that is real. What?
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
No, I know that, of course. It's bull. Luckily, the stakes of my fortune-telling abilities are extremely low. Oh, they are, Kevin, are they? No, they're not. I was going to make a joke about, well, it looks like your tenure at Business Blaze. God damn it! Brain Blaze has come to an end. No, Kevin, I love you. Please don't leave. But when a giant company decides to spend billions of dollars to acquire another company on the basis that it will increase their future earnings by enough to make the purchase worthwhile, well, those are obviously much higher stakes. Yeah, they are. And the amount of work that goes into all of that shit. A friend of mine was telling me a story. I just got back from a trip with a couple of mates, and he was like, yeah, he used to know this guy who was like, he was this like mergers dude, and it just put together these deals and all of this, and then there was one big deal coming up, and he was like, it's such a huge thing, and he's like, he just threw some like spanner in at the last moment just so you'd have to fix it and make more money. I'm like, you ruthless fuck. They're the sort of stakes that make you think that people in charge of such decisions would be able to confidently predict the future with enough certainty just to justify spending that amount of money. As it turns out, this is not always the case. We're not talking about things like Blockbuster refusing to buy Netflix or that third guy from Apple selling his stake in the company back to Jobs and Wozniak either. No, and I've covered those things so many times that if we covered them again, it would just make me sad inside, Kevin. Those examples aren't corporate mergers, so they wouldn't fit the topic anyway, but they were also solid business decisions that only look silly in hindsight because of how those companies turned out. Instead, we're going to be looking at the failed corporate mergers where nobody should have needed a crystal ball to realize that it was a terrible idea. AOL Time Warner. Yeah, I'm vaguely familiar with this one. This one went horribly wrong. I don't quite remember why, so let's get a refresher. Are we going to dive right into it and start with what is regarded as the worst merger in corporate history? Holy shit, I didn't know it was that. I mean, that's bad. I mean, these are two huge companies, and if that's not working out, to unwind that shit, it's going to be so complicated. That's how it's remembered, and the deal was always billed as a merger, but technically it was a straight-up acquisition. AOL, the world's largest internet service provider at the time. Is AOL still around? They used to make CDs, right? And that's even in the UK would get AOL CDs. Am I remembering this right, British people? AOL would still like send CDs, and it's like, put it in your computer and get access to the internet, and it's like, I already got CompuServe, and I'm not in America. What is America Online doing here? Didn't you fight? You got your independence. Now leave us alone. It was the 4th of July yesterday. Feeling like, I just got back from the trip with the two guys, and they're both American. Well, one's Puerto Rican, so we make fun of him as being like partly American. Probably inappropriately. AOL, the world's largest internet provider at the time, purchased Time Warner, the world's largest media conglomerate at the time, for $182 billion. The result was a company that was initially believed to be worth $350 billion, but things quickly fell into a downward spiral. That's a big cut, $350 billion. The deal began, as all business dealings do, in China's Tiananmen Square. Okay, where are we going with this one? Time Warner CEO Gerald Levin and AOL CEO and co-founder Steve Case were both in attendance to celebrate the founding of the People's Republic of China that had happened on that spot 50 years earlier. What's going on? They also did there to pretend they didn't remember the brutal massacre that taken place in that very spot just 10 years earlier. They're like, yeah, what massacre? Yeah, definitely haven't heard of that. Tiananmen Square. Yes, what's Tiananmen Square famous for? Yeah, definitely the founding of China. The founding of China is what Tiananmen Square is famous for. Nothing else! Not a man in front of a tank. What? But above all else, the two were there to start a spectacular bromance. Case and Levin really hit it off, which worked out well for Case since AOL had been discussing internally what company they wanted to buy. I just imagine these like CEO dudes. They're like in China celebrating the 50th anniversary. One's the CEO of AOL, the other's the CEO of Time. They're like, what's up, dude? How's it going, man? Yeah, how'd you get in? And then they just go on to discussing Gulf streams. And they're like, hey, what's the stitching in yours? It's like, yeah. How many jets has your company got? And it's like, okay, this is what I imagine they talk about because I've watched Succession. That's how much I know. They had set their sights on more attainable targets like eBay. You'd just be like, oh, what shall I buy today? eBay. Look, I was wanting to buy a Time Warner, but it's a bit steep, so I was just going to buy a fucking cheapo eBay. But with this newfound friendship, he decided they may as well swing for the fences. Of course, Time Warner wasn't for sale. They didn't... wait, aren't all these companies for sale? They're public companies. They got stocks and shares. They're always for sale. There's someone who's willing to sell. They did realize that the internet was probably going to be the future, but they were looking to buy a company rather than be bought by one. In fact, they were already in talks to purchase Yahoo, though that obviously never panned out. But these CEOs really hit it off with one another personally. Levin even arranged a meeting that lasted several hours, where the goal wasn't to talk about business at all. It was just to find out what kind of guy Case was and if his company had good, wholesome values. I mean, that is definitely a business meeting. It's not like they're just going out to play golf as bros. He's like checking him out. He's like making sure that he's a cultural fit or whatever. I'd say that's pretty important. But what do I know? That's sweet and all, but they were in talks to make what remains the largest merger in corporate history, so they probably should have been talking about business at this meeting. This is business. Business stuff. Like talking about their personal shit, it's going to be important because they're going to be working very closely together. I think this is completely legit and I'm totally okay with it. No one cares what you were okay with or not, Simon. I don't know why I said that. No one gives a shit. Who am I? Look, Time Warner, if you need some consultancy, you want some help? I know you're struggling. Ring up old Blaze Boy here. I'll talk you through it. No worries. After a few months of holding hands and singing Kumbaya or whatever they were supposed to be doing, it was decided that the deal would go through. Kumbaya, my lord, Kumbaya. AOL and Time Warner. Kumbaya, my lord, Kumbaya. This is gonna go fucking horribly wrong. We're all gonna lose billions of dollars. You're welcome. Enjoy that one. And it's in the play reel of Simon Sings on Brainblaze. On January the 10th, 2000, the deal was announced as the merger of the two companies that would be renamed the creative AOL Time Warner. Big America Online Time Warner. Why? Just rename it something like, I don't know, something cool. I don't know, like some comic book villain company name or whatever. Like Disney. But once the deal was announced, it still had to make it through all of the government channels to make sure that it wouldn't violate antitrust laws or anything. It didn't, but the government was also so baffled by the decision that the Federal Trade Commission ruled it was not an antitrust violation and that they could go through with the deal if they wanted, but that they also warned that they probably shouldn't.
We're so preoccupied with whether or not they could that they didn't stop to think if they should.
I was reading, there was a news article the other day about like Electronic Arts or Microsoft, or wasn't there some like giant video game merger going on right now? And I swear I've been reading about that for years, and they're still like, is the government going to say it's okay? And then I was reading one like, is the UK government going to say it's okay? And it's like, what, are we going to go through all like 200 countries and be like, does the government of Sierra Leone say it's... How does that shit work? You have to go to like every government and be like, can we do business in Sierra Leone? Because they like what? Or maybe they're just British. But no, Electronic Arts is not British. How's that shit work? There's a lot of I mean, I know there's a lot of paperwork.
Oh, that darn paperwork. Wouldn't it be easier if it all just blew away?
But that was just like, what's going on? Does everyone have to sign off on this? All of their... And surely someone's going to be like, nah, I don't like that. And then all of that is just not happening. All of their economists warned that the deal made absolutely no sense, which should have been very obviously true. Kumbaya, my lord. Kumbaya. I want to play golf with the AOL guy. First of all, the deal was only possible because of the dot-com bubble. AOL had less than half the cash flow of Time Warner, but the company was still valued higher because all internet companies had insane, unrealistic prices at the time. The entire premise of the deal was the amount of future ad revenue AOL could bring in, with the company promising numbers that they absolutely knew they wouldn't have been able to meet. I should try that. I'd be like, yo, Time Warner. Yeah, now I predict that by next week, my ad revenue is going to be in the billions. Yes! And they'll be like, oh, yeah, that influencer bubble, that YouTube bubble. We got to snap up those channels. And then I'm rich and they're Kumbaya, my lord! To start, dial-up internet was already beginning to die. High-speed internet was hardly ubiquitous in the year 2000, but it was picking up steam. It was also something AOL hadn't been able to provide its customers. They hoped to utilize Time Warner's existing infrastructure for their Roadrunner broadband service, but that wasn't going to happen for reasons we'll get into in a moment. It does highlight another serious issue with this deal, though. Time Warner already had its own broadband internet service. Sure, AOL may have had millions of paying customers, but those were all dial-up customers. Oh God, can you imagine being like, oh no, the dial-up it's useless. No one wants dial-up. What are you going to do? You can't even do anything. Shit. I remember like a year or two ago, I found some website that like simulates dial-up internet, like it slows it right down. And it's like, fuck, now this would be unbearable. Websites are big these days. Like, you want that high-res picture? Kumbaya. There was no guarantee what percent of them would be able to convert to Roadrunner subscribers. Every cable, phone, and internet company, as long as I've been alive, has been notorious for sucking, so customers don't have any brand loyalty. To be fair, I think this is an American thing, right? Because I've always been like, yeah, no, it's always been okay. It's always been quite nice. Like, I mean, I complained a little bit about Vodafone, but that's because they bought one of the greatest ISPs that I've ever used. There was a company called UPC, and I was enjoying UPC so much, and then Vodafone bought them, and it's fine, but it's just a bit more shit than it was before. And always like, it's like, yeah, so my internet's supposed to be like, what, 800 a month or whatever, crowns. And then it's like, oh no, this is my mobile phone bill. It's always like, it's supposed to be like 500 a month or 600 a month. And then every month it's like 700. It's like, what did I do? I have unlimited minutes. I have unlimited texts. I have unlimited internet. What am I possibly doing? Why are you charging me? And every month I'm like, I'll just pay it. Am I going to check it? No, it's like $3 equivalent. But like, fuck you. To be fair, it would have worked better if they rebranded Roadrunner as AOL High-Speed Internet. AOL was a crappy product whose major benefit was appealing to the computer illiterate, and a lot of those customers may have stuck with them for high-speed internet for the sake of simplicity. But this didn't happen because the company decided to treat AOL and Time Warner as a separate but equal sort of thing. The board was to be made up of an equal number of employees from each company, with 11 remaining CEO, and Case becoming chairman of the board. Kumbaya! This created a huge problem because the employees at the two companies absolutely hated one another. Kumbaya, no! There are claims that the animosity has been overstated, but the very different cultures between the two companies did not mesh well together at all. There were a lot of big plans on how to combine the capabilities of the two companies, but neither side was interested. It was like a giant turf war between two companies that couldn't wrap their heads around the fact that they were now the same company. It also didn't help that as the majority owners of the company, AOL was technically in charge. This was not a task that Case was prepared to handle at all, and I can't find exact numbers, but it seems that AOL had at most 10,000 employees before the merger. Really? AOL's a huge company! I know 10,000 people is obviously a lot of people, but is it that much in the tech world? How many employees does Facebook have? Hey Siri, how many employees does Facebook have? Oh, fuck with your web results, Siri, you stupid dickhead. Just tell me the number, Siri. You knob. They were now in charge of a multimedia megacorp that had over 90,000 employees. Holy shit. There are so many reasons that things went wrong, and the final blow was when the dot-com bubble burst. Due to the collapse of all tech stock prices, AOL Time Warner lost $98.7 billion. From 2001 to 2002, the largest annual loss of any company ever. Of everything we've discussed so far, that's the only thing that could perhaps be forgiven. They absolutely should have recognized that they were in a bubble, but it's possible that everybody involved was so confident in what they were doing that they were blind to it. After all, if it was easy for everyone to recognize these things, then stock bubbles would never happen in the first place. Of course, I can't actually let them off the hook that easily. AOL purchased Time Warner for a crap load of money that they only had access to because of their inflated stock price, and the value that they were supposed to bring to the table was all of the online ad revenue they could bring in. Problems first started when AOL couldn't hit the numbers they promised, and they should have known that that would happen since they oh for fuck's sake, Simon, can you even read one sentence without fucking stumbling? You fucking knob. You're worse than Siri. At least Siri can say things without stumbling. Like, I found some there's a web results. I found them on the web. There's web results! I'm just going to move on to the next sentence and hope we don't skip anything important. There have been numerous allegations made against AOL and their reported revenue going back as far as 1995. Allegations they allegedly inflated earnings by hundreds of millions of dollars annually. Isn't that legal? Just like, what's that? Oh yeah, Peter in accounts added a zero. Hey! Though they do not appear to have ever denied nor admitted to these allegations, they have paid out a lot of money both in settlements and fines to the SEC and the federal government. Well, it doesn't exactly reek of innocence then, does it? But if those allegations are true, they certainly should have been aware that they didn't really have the assets or the earnings to make a $182 billion purchase, and that it would only be a matter of time before that alleged house of cards collapsed on them. In 2009, AOL was spun out into its own company again, and it was purchased in 2015 by Verizon for $4.4 billion. Oh, that was a fall from grace, wasn't it? Not only does that represent a ton of money lost by a lot of people, but it shows that somehow someone thinks AOL is still a billion-dollar company, which seems a little bit insane. Does AOL do anything these days? What is AOL doing? They must surely... Is this one of those companies where it's like, you know, when you try to cancel a subscription like 900 times and they keep billing you to the point you eventually just have to cancel your credit card so they finally can't charge you anymore?
That's weirdly specific.
I feel like AOL's just... Is that what they do now? They've just got a lot of people on dial-up that don't know it and they're just collecting their like $20 a month or whatever for that? I don't know. Maybe AOL's doing something really cool. Maybe they're probably not. The following year, Time Warner was bought by AT&T for $85.4 billion, or nearly $100 billion less than what AOL had paid for them. Quaker Oats and Snapple. When I was going to school at the University of Miami, welcome to Miami, you could not buy Gatorade anywhere on campus. The drink was named after the University of Florida's Gators, for whom it was originally invented, one of Miami's two big sports rivals. And this is just a friendly reminder for Simon and our international viewers that Americans take our college sports entirely too seriously. Oh, that's not a joke. It was really banned. I just assumed that was a joke, but you do take sports seriously, don't you? But the drink's origins made it extremely appealing. It was created by nerds in a lab using science and to benefit athletes and flu patients alike. And hangover people. Gatorade's one of those ones with like the electrolytes, right? That is perfect for a hangover.
I got a hangover. Whoa, I've been drinking too much for sure.
Like that blue and orange. I don't think we have Gatorade. We have something like Power Up or whatever it's called. It's like, you know, generic sports energy drinks with electrolytes. And it just pumps the water into your body. And like, yes, please make me feel human again. And when Quaker Oats bought Gatorade in 1983, it was an absolute goldmine for them. Kids in the 80s just didn't get excited about oatmeal the way they used to. Kids in the past were extremely boring, but they loved the idea of brightly coloured drinks full of sugar that were theoretically good for them. I always get the diet ones. Why would you buy the ones with sugar? Maybe if I'm mega hungover, I guess that sugar is like, oh, thank God, please, anything in my body now. When the 90s came around, Quaker decided they wanted to replicate that success. They had purchased a beverage company, placed the drinks in grocery stores around the country, and made absolute bank off the whole thing. So why not literally do the exact same thing again? In 1994, Quaker purchased Snapple for $1.7 billion. That purchase price was considered absolute lunacy, with Wall Street saying that Quaker overpaid by $1 billion. God damn! Well, so who are your Wall Street eyes? Because you don't just like buy some company without like some dude like Patrick Bateman in M&A sorting the shit out. How? It's obviously less in absolute dollars, but as a percentage, that's even more than Wall Street said Elon Musk overpaid for Twitter. But this price wasn't a 420 meme. Quaker really thought that Snapple was worth that much. And maybe it's like that time fucking WhatsApp. Like, I'm sure I've told this story before and everyone knows this story. But it was like when Facebook bought Instagram for like $1 billion, right? And then like a few years later, they buy WhatsApp for like $19 billion. Can you imagine being a dude who starts WhatsApp like in that meeting? You're just like... So what you got, Facebook? Oh, Marky, the Zucky, what do you got for me, Mark? And his lawyer slides over a piece of paper, and you open it up, and it says like 19 billion. And you're like, hold on one second, I need to speak with my lawyer outside. And you just go outside with your lawyer, and you look at him, and he looks at you, and you're like, woo! And then Mark hears you, and he's like, and then you come back in and you're like, we accept your offer. 19 billion for WhatsApp. 19 times the value of Instagram. God damn. There were a few problems at play that they should have realized. The first was competition. Companies had tried and failed, but until Powerade, that's what I'm thinking, not Ultrade or whatever the they called it, or Power Up. Power Up. It's not Power Up, it's Powerade. Came along, there wasn't really any competitor to Gatorade. It was a drink designed by scientists to serve a specific purpose, a fact that they was heavily promoted. Kevin, what the fuck? A fact they heavily promoted. Maybe, Kevin? Maybe you just threw that extra that in there to f with me, Kevin? Or is it just an understandable typo because we're all imperfect humans? Love you, Kevin. What's wrong with me?
Whatever's wrong with you is no little thing.
It certainly didn't hurt matters that the Gators had won over 40 NCAA championships in various sports. Snapple, on the other hand, was facing an increasing amount of competition. Coke and Pepsi had Nestea and Lipton Brisk to compete with, Snapple Iced Tea, and Coke had just launched their Fruitopia line of drinks to complete with Snapple's fruity options. I've never heard of Fruitopia, but I like the name. There was also Sobe, later purchased by Pepsi. There was a popular brand of juice drinks as well. In short, Snapple wasn't going to have the same sort of monopoly on the market that Gatorade did. The bigger problem was that Quaker tried to replicate their success with Gatorade by following the exact same formula. They used their existing contacts to get Snapple placed into grocery stores and big box retailers around the country, thus alienating their entire customer base. Snapple's core demographic was thirsty kids and teenagers who bought the drinks at gas stations and convenience stores. Ain't nobody got time to spend 20 minutes in line at the grocery store just to buy a drink. Oh, I would make the same mistake. I'll be like, we gotta roll this out, get it in front, get in the big stores, get other people buying it, and then it'd be like, that didn't work. That would genuinely surprise me. I don't think this is stupid. I just think it's unfortunate that they didn't see this. And it was 1994, so it's not like there was even self-checkout yet to make it fast enough to be worthwhile. By completely failing to understand what they had actually purchased, Quaker lost big on the deal. Their do exactly what we did with Gatorade plan didn't pan out, and after 27 months, they gave up, selling Snapple off to Triac Beverages for a loss of $1.7 million. Wait. No, wait, not a loss of. Wait, they only lost 1.7 million? Million is not a typo. That's the total amount they lost. That's how much money they... Wait. Oh my god, wait. That's not a typo. That's how much money they lost per day that they owned Snapple. Oh my god. That sale price was $300 million for a total loss of $1.4 billion. Fucking hell. That's savage. eBay and Skype. What? eBay and Skype? That happened? Isn't Skype Microsoft? Isn't eBay PayPal? What? eBay and Skype? They do what? Shopping online. And who the fuck uses Skype anymore? Is Skype still around? I know it is. But like, didn't we move beyond that to like Google Hangouts or whatever the fuck that's called, Google Meet? Someone I have meetings with forces me to use fucking Microsoft Teams. What the fuck? Zoom. Skype? I can't remember the last time someone told me to be on Skype. It's been like a decade. Shopping online is fantastic, and I've been using eBay since the late 90s as both a buyer and a seller. It was a crazy time back then when it was common for people to pay for auctions by mailing you a check, a money order, or even just cash. Holy shit. I used eBay back in the day, but like, definitely not back in the day like pre-PayPal. Was there something before PayPal? I've never mailed someone a check. Kevin, I know you're only a couple of years older than me. You mail it... Oh, though America, you still use checks and stuff, don't you? Checks are still a thing, which is weird. I haven't had a checkbook in 20 years. I had a checkbook when I was a kid. I don't think I've had a checkbook since I was at university, to be honest. 20 years ago? Jesus Christ, I'm getting old. Not 20 years ago, I'd be 16. Like 15 years ago. That sounds much less than 20. It makes me feel better about myself. Or even just cash. Just mailing someone in cash. Okay. But there was always something missing from the online shopping experience. Sure, you could email back and forth with buyers and sellers to ask whatever questions you wanted, but it didn't just have the same personal touch that buying something face-to-face did. So they bought Skype. Who the f*** wants to talk to people? That's the last thing I want to do. I will like email someone and then it's like, oh my god, they didn't get back to me for a few days. I guess I have to fucking call them. And I hate it. I hate calling people. Jesus, I spent 45 minutes on hold the other day with a company. It's like, what the fuck? What the actual... And I was just giving them money. I was just giving them money. 45 minutes on hold to give them... And it was not a small amount of money. 45 minutes. I was always going to be like, fine, I give up, I just won't pay for it. In 2005, eBay finally decided they were going to do something about this alleged problem. Now that the majority of the people had upgraded from dial-up to faster internet connections, Voice over Internet Protocol, or VoIP, was the hot new technology. eBay realized that by purchasing Skype, they could integrate this technology into their auction house and finally provide the personal contact that everybody desperately craves in their online purchases. No, the reason people are buying online is because they don't want to do things in person. That's the greatest thing about buying stuff online. You don't have to go and interact with people. I hate interacting with people. Except for Kevin. Love you, Kevin.
Just kiss.
eBay purchased Skype for $2.6 billion, despite the company having only $7 million in revenue the year before. It was a bold strategy, and it absolutely did not pay off for them. Even if my sarcasm was too subtle, I'm sure Simon has already explained how nobody wants to talk to people when shopping online. Got that one right, Kevin, and you're absolutely bang on. Not having to interact with other people is one of the biggest selling points of e-commerce. You got that one right, Kevin. You're bang on. No matter how hard they tried to push it, their eBay users simply did not want this functionality. A well-written auction listing shouldn't require any questions, and even if somebody had a question or two, just using email was good enough. It would take fewer messages to ask and answer a question than it would take to try and schedule a Skype call. It also didn't help that the cultures of the two companies could not have been more different. The venture capital firm Benchmark had purchased a 22% stake in eBay in the 90s, and the tech nerds decided it was better to let them handle a lot of the businessy stuff. As a result, eBay was described as having an extremely conservative bank-like culture. Skype emphatically did not. The two guys that created Skype were the same guys that created the file-sharing service Kazaa. Oh my god, blast from the past that I never used to pirate tons of movies and TV shows and music. Never would do that. Kazaa. Holy shit, those guys made Skype? What the fuck? They had severely disrupted the music and film industries by letting people share files for free. Wouldn't know anything about that. And now they were trying to do the same thing to phone companies. It shouldn't have been a surprise that these two groups weren't going to get along and play nicely with one another. Of course, this wasn't quite the financial disaster that the others were. After 4 years of failed attempts to make their users talk to each other, eBay finally threw in the towel and sold Skype off for $1.9 billion to a group of private investors. That's still a $700 million loss, but percentage-wise it's not nearly as bad as the others. It all goes to show that mergers and acquisitions are a tricky thing. You need to do your due diligence to make sure you understand exactly what you're buying, how the cultures of your different companies will interact, and that you have a clear vision of the company's future. Hey, look, real business advice in an episode of Rainblaze. What the fuck's going on? I feel like I'm back at school. Oh, how nice. It's important that there is a clear and sensible path forward that unites the new companies. It's with that in mind that I'm proud to announce the merger between Business Blaze and Bogota Confectionery Company, the manufacturer behind the world's finest nose candy. Ah, Kevin! I'm confident there will be a lot of great things in our future. Brilliant! And thank you everybody for watching. Kumbaya, my lord, kumbaya. This is gonna go fucking horribly wrong and we're all gonna lose billions of dollars.